Today in the IDS software, I want to show you how you can work in the IDS software with layers. We have a few really nice features built in, and layers is also one of the features that allows us to do on-screen footwear comparisons. And so I pulled up today an example not only of a latent print but also of a footwear comparison, and I want to show you how you can use layers in the IDS software to do comparisons and document your images in both of those formats, both for latent prints as well as for footwear. So I've got a latent print example pulled up on my screen. Let's take a look. So looking over here at my screen now, you can see I've got a latent print. It was a bloody impression processed with Amido Black. So I've got that pulled up on our main screen here. If we look over on the lower left-hand side, we're going to see this palette is going to be for our layers. Now I can hide that entire palette by unclicking the show box, or I can click that show box and it'll bring it all back up. You see that the 0 layer is going to be our base layer, and if I wanted to add a layer on top of that, I just click Add, and it's going to ask me to name this layer. So I'm going to say MJM. Those are just my initials. So I'll name it MJM, and we're going to see that this layer now shows 1 and then my initials. Now we can do a lot of things on this layer. We can go into annotations, and maybe we want to drop some dots. I'm going to uncheck my proportional preferences. I usually like a smaller dot, and I'm going to make this a larger dot so that everybody can see it in the tutorial. And I'm going to go through, and maybe I want to add some dots around on my print. Well, those are now all on this layer 1, and as soon as I hit save on the image, that will actually flatten those dots onto this layer. The other thing that we can do with a layer is we can add any image from our film strip as a new layer on an existing image. So let me show you what I'm talking about with that. For this purpose, I'm going to go ahead and delete that annotations layer, and I'm going to take this blue channel. For this image, I went ahead and already extracted the blue channel through the enhancements function, and I can take any image down here in my film strip. I can right click, and one of those options is going to be add as a new layer in an active panel. So I'm going to click to add that as a new layer in this panel, and now we're going to see that this is 100% opacity, that this layer is both visible and it's locked. Now I can make that layer invisible just by unchecking that box, and that's going to mean that we see the base layer. So new layers get added to the bottom of this list of layers. I can again click that to make it visible. If it's visible, I can go over here to my opacity, and I can change my opacity down so that we see the background, or I can raise it up. I also have the ability under the advanced function here to choose a number of different layer blending methods, and we're not going to go into detail on each one of those here. Those are pretty readily available on the internet if you wanted to look up what any of those layer operations do. And do be aware again that the top layer, or the new layer I should say, is the lowest one in this list. The other thing that we can do is, let's say that I wanted to make this layer my base layer, the number 1 layer. Well, I can just select that layer and I can move it up in the layer list, or I could move it back down. I can also select multiple layers, and if I do that, I can merge them together, or if I have a whole bunch of layers in here, I can flatten them all to one single layer. So merge is going to combine whatever 2 layers or more layers that you have selected, just whatever layers you have selected. And you select multiple layers by clicking on one, holding down the control key, and selecting the second layer or third layer or fourth layer, and then you'd hit merge. And then also, if you wanted to do enhancements maybe on your base layer, you can actually duplicate that base layer. If I hit duplicate that base layer, we're now going to see that now that base layer is not just the 0, it's also number 2, and I could do enhancements on that layer as well. Okay, so here is a bloody footwear impression. And this has already been digitally enhanced. I went ahead and did some enhancements on this. And what I can do here is I can take my known footwear impression. So this is a 2-dimensional known impression of my footwear pulled up, and you'll see that it's as layer 1 in what was an image that was just the bloody footwear impression. So I can make this layer 1 invisible, and there we see the bloody footwear impression. Now I can change the opacity of the known footwear, and you'll see that opacity change, and I can take it all the way down to where we just see that bloody footwear impression, or I can take it all the way back up that we just see the known impression. Now I'm going to go into my image processing in the upper left, and I'm going to click on enhancements. In enhancements, I'm going to be able to apply these enhancements to whatever layer I have selected. So here, for a footwear comparison, a lot of times when I do a footwear comparison, I have a hard time, if it's on screen, figuring out, as I start to change opacities and things like that, I have a hard time figuring out which one is my known and which one is my latent, especially if everything's lining up really well. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my known footwear impression, and I'm going to take my channel offset, and I'm going to make it a little bit more green. So I'm going to slide that green slider off to the right a little bit. So that's just going to make it easier for me to know which is my known impression and which one is that bloody footwear impression as I start to do things like change to the opacity. Now, clicking back on this general tab in our layers, I can actually click on this pan tool, and as I click on that pan tool, I can grab this layer and I can move it completely off to the side. In fact, if in latent prints, if you wanted to make a charted enlargement, this is how you would do it. You would just add your known and latent into the same layer or same image as different layers, and you can just pan them around however you want and drop dots and add lines and arrows and text. So here I've gone ahead and drawn it off or pulled it off to the side, and I could change the opacity, or I could move it back over. Now, if I move this around a lot, one thing I noticed pretty quickly in the software was that the more I move it around, the harder it is for me to get it back over top. So I would change the opacity down a little bit, and I would slide it around and try to get it exactly where I wanted it, but it was difficult. So we have this button here called Position to Base, and what that's going to do is it's going to say, when you first added this layer in, this was its position. And now, even though you moved it all around, we're going to give you a button that allows you to take it right back to that original position. So even though this is off a little bit, I'm going to hit that Position to Base, and you're going to see that layer 1 go right back to the original position that I had it in. For a comparison, I'm going to do a select zoom here, and I'm going to go in on this area right here. And I want to look at this individual characteristic right here. As I change that opacity so that I'm just looking at my known impression here, it's pretty clear that I've got a nice individual characteristic there. And if I change that opacity down, I can look at my latent and I can see, well, it looks like maybe things aren't quite lined up quite right. So I'm going to click on that pan button again, and I'm going to move this around and make sure everything lines up properly. And again, I can unclick that pan button now, and I'm going to go back and forth with the opacity on the known print, and I can see if that actually is represented in the bloody impression. The other thing that I could do is I could just make this invisible so that my known impression, I'm not seeing it at all now. I'm just seeing that bloody footwear impression. Click it again, and now I'm seeing the known impression, and I can just toggle back and forth. So there's a few different ways to go about doing a comparison in footwear in the same image, toggling between opacity and visibility and being able to pan it and move it around within the same image. I find this super useful for on-screen footwear comparisons. A lot of times in the past we would go ahead and print out acetate copies of the known impressions and try to do comparisons that way. This is really the first time I personally have had a software program that I felt super comfortable doing on-screen comparisons in footwear quickly and efficiently. So we hope you guys are liking this. If you have any questions at any time, please give us a phone call. You can reach us anytime at 1-866-832-6772, or you can reach us on our website at www.ronsmithandassociates.com. Again, my name is Matt Marvin. I'm the Latent Print Technical Manager with Ron Smith and Associates at our headquarters office here in Collinsville, Mississippi. Take care, have a great day, and God bless.